Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to the second round of the Ginetta Junior's official eSeries, where tonight the action comes live to you from a virtual Donington Park. Really happy to be back for the remainder of the season. Andy McEwen here talking to you from the commentary box. Unfortunately, wasn't able to be here for the opening round last time at Alton Park. Big thank you to Jack Werrell for ably stepping in. Arguably doing an even better job than I, but very afraid just stuck with me now for the rest of the season as we prepare to hopefully witness some more of the extremely close racing that we enjoyed a week ago at Alton Park. Very different challenge for the drivers this week at Donington, but still a circuit that always produces great racing. One of my absolute favourites in the United Kingdom, and it is a full Grand Prix circuit that we will be running on here tonight. Big thanks as always to everyone who helps put these events together, to Tom O'Farrell, the man behind the pictures that we'll be witnessing over the next hour or so, our broadcast director, to Mick Sutton, who of course puts it all together, and also this week to Jordan Taylor, who's standing in for our regular race director and safety car driver. Jordan, you may remember, was a competitor in our previous series here at Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing, and he knows a thing or two about what to do and what not to do, perhaps out on circuit, and he's, as we speak, passing those words of wisdom on to our drivers in the pre-event briefing. So a big thanks to the whole team who have been working hard behind the scenes, as always, to put this together. Well, this is the second round of the championship. As I said, it all started last Thursday evening at Alton Park. We raced tonight at Donington Park as part of this 8-round calendar. So in a week's time, we head to the National Circuit at Silverstone, a circuit built for Ginetta Junior racing, really. Then the Snetterton 300 venue will take us to the halfway point, after which we visit Cadwell Park, Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, back to Donington Park again on the GP loop for our penultimate round, and then it all concludes on the full Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone on Thursday, the 12th of October. So a busy season, a varied season as far as the circuits are concerned, but all of them guaranteed to produce some good slipstreaming action, and that's exactly what we hope to see from Ginetta Junior Racing, be it in the real world or the virtual. What's up for grabs then? Well, lots of prizes on offer throughout the course of the season, the main one being the prize that goes to our eventual champion, free entry to the Ginetta Scholarship, which takes place a couple of weeks after the conclusion to this eSeries. So that could well be the first step on the real world motorsport ladder for some of our aspiring sim racers here tonight. Second place receives a Mongrip bracelet. I was learning from Tom O'Farrell just before we went live tonight what a Mongrip bracelet is. It's a very, very fancy bit of bling, apparently. A bracelet made out of Formula 1 tyres, used Formula 1 tyres, presumably. So a great bit of motorsport memorabilia there for our second place driver. An MSI gaming monitor will go to our third place driver, a 32-inch MSI gaming monitor. And for the driver of the round, chosen by the broadcast team, and indeed the organisational team at the end of each round, will receive a 3M UK sim set of sim racing gloves. So great prizes on offer come the end of the season, and indeed on a round by round basis. So we are almost, I think, ready to dive into the on-track action then, our second qualifying session of the season. Last time out at Alton Park, pole position went the way actually of the eventual race one winner, because it was a brilliant start to the season for Nathan Williams. Nathan Williams qualified on pole position. He won the first race of the evening, and then he finished third in the second race, which is that reversed grid race, remember, so always a bit harder to claim the victory there. And as a result, Nathan arrives here at Donington Park, well, actually second in the championship, because it was George Robinson who eventually went on to win that second race of the evening, who had a slightly better night consistency-wise. He had a second in race one, a win in race number two, and that puts him just one single championship point clear of Nathan. But these two are very much the class of the field at the moment. 65 championship points for Robinson, 64 for Nathan Williams. You go back a further 20 then until you reach William Antrobus, who is third in the points. So right now, Nathan Williams and George Robinson, the two early season favourites, and we're following Nathan here as he drops down through the Melbourne hairpin, climbs towards Goddard's at the completion of a flying lap here in qualifying. We're already into the second half of qualifying, in fact, and so already some good benchmark times have been laid down. It is George Robinson then, who currently is fastest. Levine Kishore, who raced in our previous championship as well, currently second fastest. Third quickest was Louis Neal, but Adrian Rios Garcia has just jumped into third place. That becomes fourth, though, as Nathan Williams now sets the new fastest time. So 1:52.832 is now the time to beat. It's car number 5 that has set that time. And by nearly 0.2 of a second now, he is on the provisional pole position. With Robinson second place, Levine Kishore third, Garcia fourth, and then Louis Neal completing the top 5. Right on board then with Nathan Williams down through the crater curves. Full commitment flat out through there in a Ginetta Junior car. Down one gear for the right-hander at the old hairpin. Plenty of curb on the way in. Even more on the way out there for Nathan as he uses all of the available racetrack. And just a bit more maybe than he should be, really. Up through the gears now towards Schwantz curve. And it's just as you come out of this left-hand kink that you start thinking about hitting the brakes nice and late. Carry the speed through into the uphill right-hander. Fourth gear through McLean's. A bit too wide again there for Nathan. A scrappy lap, this one. And most definitely running the risk of exceeding track limits. Keeps it in fourth for Coppice. That's interesting. Some drivers may choose to go down to third, but it seems like fourth is Nathan Williams' choice. And then the right foot planted flat to the floorboards as you go down the exhibition straight past the exhibition centre on the left-hand side of shot. And prepare to hit the brakes, not turning right into the chicane as you would on the national layout, but turning left. And again, flings it in there. All of the curb being used by Nathan Williams. Fourth gear through the Fogarty S's. And now down towards the Melbourne hairpin where there's a slow car looming on the horizon. Hopefully they get the message and get out of the way. Is Nathan going to commit to the inside? He didn't really know whether he could commit there, did he? He does eventually get left the space. Down to bottom gear through Melbourne. And then accelerating steeply, deceptively steeply actually, uphill towards the final turn. Where again, we'll hit the brakes just about there at the end of the curb. Down to second, I'd imagine, for the left-hander. Yes, it is slightly quicker, the Goddard's hairpin. And then it's all about, well, in theory, hitting the throttle and accelerating to the line. But I wonder whether Nathan had maybe invalidated that lap with one of his off-track excursions. So he bails for the pit lane for a fresh set of tyres. Nathan, though, still fastest in the session. George Robinson, though, has just improved and gone quicker. So George Robinson now back to the top of the times. And George Robinson with a personal best in the first sector. Sectors 2 and 3 weren't really anything to write home about, but he was able to put a good lap together. So he now takes pole by just over a second then. A tenth of a second, I should say. George Robinson making his way down the hill again through the crater curves. George, championship leader, remember. But he and Nathan Williams already engaged in this ding-dong battle for the championship lead. That's going to be the story to try and follow, I'm sure, as each round of racing goes on. As is always the case, though, with junior racing, the drivers at the start of the season who are the comfortable pace setters don't always end up having it their own way come the end of the season. Drivers inevitably get better with more experience. Lots of these drivers might not have a huge amount of experience of sim racing. And certainly at this level, I'm sure many of them are video gamers and have had a little go maybe on Assetto Corsa on console. This is the full PC version of Assetto Corsa that we're using for this championship, and this takes a little bit of getting used to if you've not maybe had all that much experience on a wheel and pedals. There are drop scores over the course of the season to help you out, though, so if you do get off to a slightly slow start, it's not necessarily your championship hope squandered immediately, but it's still likely that there will be drivers who really peak in the second half of the season. Going to be fascinating to see who they might be. George Robinson here we're following. He's not going quite as quickly as he was on the previous lap. He's still hovering around what was pole position time, though, so he seems to have some good consistency. Nathan Williams is back out of the pit lane now after coming in for some fresh tyres last time out. He's somewhere in the final sector on what is his outlap for the pit lane. He's going to cross the line with 3 minutes to go, so we'll have time for probably 2 more flying laps. Robinson actually heads for the pit lane himself, and so we cut back to Liam Bradley. Liam Bradley, 8th place at the moment in the session, gets a big slide there as he heads through Coppice Corner. Ginetta Junior cars running with the Ginetta G40 chassis, but a restricted engine, basically, being a junior series. The cars have to be limited on horsepower, limited on top speed. Doesn't mean that you can't get them sideways, clearly. And Liam demonstrating that quite nicely there with some good car control out of Coppice. Exciting to watch, but probably a little bit slower off the corner than he would have ideally liked. About a second off the pole position time as he gets to the end of Sector 2. That was sort of at the end of that exhibition straight, but he's now accelerating towards the final turn. See in a moment or two whether or not he's going to be able to improve. Looks like he's maybe backed off. Yes, he has. He's backed off at the end of this lap. Saw maybe that he was catching a car just ahead and decided to abort that lap and go again. Right, what is Nathan Williams doing? Well, he's back out there on fresh tyres. He has just set a personal best in the first sector, and right now looks pretty strong, doesn't he? He is perhaps now tracking to try and take that pole position time back away from George Robinson. So as Nathan accelerates out of Coppice Corner, heads down the back straight, we'll very shortly get that second sector time in, but it looks good. It looks like this might be enough. He's just about still tracking for pole position, I think. Remember, needs to 5.11 of a second to try and beat George Robinson's time. Lots of curb on the way into the chicane there. Pretty neat and tidy on the way out, though. Accelerates downhill towards the Melbourne hairpin. And Nathan Williams looking to try and repeat the pole position that he scored a week ago at Alton Park. And of course, from that pole position, he was able to go on and win the race. A bit too eager on the right foot, though, as he comes out of Melbourne. That will lose him a bit of speed. He's flashing the headlights at traffic that is a long way up the road. I don't think there's any real danger of him catching them through the final corner. And so Nathan, as he turns out of Goddard's, will accelerate towards the timing line, and we'll find out whether this is enough to steal the pole position back. A 1:52.717 is the time to beat. He crosses the line, and it must have been an invalidated lap because there's no improvement there for Nathan. He was tracking well in the sectors, but either an invalidation or a really slow final sector means that he does not take pole position. We do, though, have Louis Neal now up into third position, an improvement in time for Louis, and that is a 1:53.687, so a full 8/10 slower than Nathan Williams ahead of him, but at least jumps onto the inside of row number 2 ahead of Levine Kishore. He's having to get used now to the change between front-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive. Of course, the last championship that we ran here was the championship for the junior saloon cars, which were front-wheel drive Citroen Saxos. Now we're in these rear-wheel drive junior sports cars, basically, the Ginetta G40. So drivers who have more experience either in the real world or the Sim 1 wheel drive cars might just be taking a moment or two to get up to speed here. There is Levine coming out of Coppice, heading down the exhibition straight then towards the chicane, and doesn't look as though Levine is on a flyer here necessarily, certainly taking a bit of a strange line down the exhibition straight. George Robinson is, though. He's accelerating out of McLean's, and he's just in a purple first sector, so George Robinson fastest of anyone through sector 1. And we're about to see what his sector 2 time is. Neat and tidy over the inside curb at Coppice. Controls the wheel spin on the exit. Runs right out to the edge of the road. Look at that, using all of the space available. And that's important because it means you don't have to have as much steering lock on. And in these relatively low-powered cars, that really helps your acceleration out of the turns. Down towards the chicane, onto the brakes, just over the crest of the hill, down to 4th. Oh, that might have been track limits. We'll have to wait and see. It's a little bit close to call there from the onboard camera. His first sector fastest of anybody. His second sector not an improvement, so still tracking for an improved lap time though as it stands. He's got one car just ahead of him, which again hopefully he's not going to catch before the flag. Nathan Williams, by the way, just put in a personal best, but it was only a small improvement. He's just taken the checkered flag then at the conclusion of qualifying, and he's now within a 10th of a second of George Robinson, who looks set to take the pole position time. The question is what that lap time will be. Can he improve again as he comes off the final turn, heads to the timing line, and is it a new fastest lap in the session? Yes, it is, a 52.656, and for the second week, well, not for the second week in a row, actually. It is George Robinson who gets his first pole position of the season, because remember, it was Nathan Williams who claimed the pole last time, and George was actually only 4th on the grid at Alton Park, but already looking a bit racier here at Donington. Liam Bradley now we cut back to, making his way out of the Melbourne hairpin. Liam Bradley currently sits down in 8th place, not improving in either of these sectors for the time being. So perhaps not going to see him leap massively up the order. And indeed, we definitely won't, because he's going to head for the pit lane. So Liam Bradley heads in, and that means that everybody has seen the checkered flag. The qualifying session is over, and it's George Robinson who claims pole position for our second week of racing here in the Ginetta Junior official eSeries. And he'll be gunning for a second victory of the season as well, to go alongside his race 2 win last time out at Alton Park. That race is going to be coming up very, very shortly. 20-minute races tonight. The first one, the grid based upon the qualifying session that we just witnessed. The second one has that full reverse grid. So the race results from race 1 are flipped on their head. And those who were quick in race 1 have suddenly got a lot of overtaking to do to try and get themselves back in contention for podium places. So looking forward to seeing how this one goes on. Nathan Williams and George Robinson looking to try and extend their advantage over the rest of the field. But of course, even early in the season, we've only had 2 races out of the 16 that we have that count towards the championship this season. But as soon as you see 2 drivers so evenly matched, which George and Nathan clearly are, you know you're in for a season-long title battle between the 2 of them. And George coming into this round with the very slender advantage, just a single point clear of Nathan in the title race. We'll want to try and snap right back at him when we go into our first race in just a few moments' time. So we're hoping to hear from our pole position driver, but perhaps not looking likely. No, I don't think we are going to hear from our pole position driver, unfortunately. So we'll very shortly be heading into the race, and we will have 20 minutes of action around Donington Park. And great thing about Donington, especially when it comes to one-make racing, and especially when that one-make racing is Ginetta one-make racing, all about momentum, all about carrying the speed through the high-speed sweeping corners, and particularly in junior cars that don't have a huge amount of power, mid-corner speed is so crucial, which means that as soon as you start going side by side and you start holding each other up through the centre of the corners, you lose so much momentum on corner exits, stacks everything up, you get some really great battle packs forming. And then, of course, on this Grand Prix layout, you head down to the Melbourne hairpin, which is just made for dive bombs, and I'm sure we'll see a few drivers trying some slightly ambitious manoeuvres up the inside into the Melbourne hairpin. Redgate, you can see there the first corner. That's another good place to try and outbrake somebody too. The old hairpin, if you're feeling really brave, you can throw one up the inside down there as well. And then up through the top end of the circuit here at McLean's and Coppice. That really is where that momentum starts to be all the more important. For the final run home through the Melbourne Loop. So the drivers then, last time out to get on the podium. Well, Liam Bradley, actually, we saw him qualify only 8th for this race. He was on the podium in the first race, 3rd place in race 1. The 3rd place driver in race 2 was Levine Kishaw. Of course, it was Williams and Robinson who were particularly strong. Beg your pardon, actually, it was William Antrobus, wasn't it, who actually split them in race 2 with a 2nd place finish for the TNT Esports driver. So William Antrobus qualified, seem to recall, inside the top 5 or so. Actually, no, dropped down to 9th place by the end of the session, so he's going to have a bit of work to do. Drivers, though, lining up on the grid then ahead of this first 20-minute race of the evening. George Robinson with Nathan Williams for company on row number 1, who is going to get the best of the launches. Again, low-powered cars. That launch, that initial launch, can make a big difference by the time you get all the way down to Redgate Corner. And those with the best reaction times, those who can control the wheel spin the best, are going to be the ones who likely come out on top through that first corner. So just waiting then for the final countdown to be completed, and we'll get this show on the road then. There we go, red light starting to come on then. 20 minutes of racing here at Donington Park in the Ginetta Junior official eSeries. Lights out then, off they go, and it's a good start made by George Robinson from pole position. Nathan Williams, slotting straight into 2nd place, and immediately trying to find that slipstream as they run down towards Redgate Corner. There's one car glitching out massively in the background, and that is going to immediately put someone towards the back of the field with some connection troubles, but it's Robinson who leads them out of Redgate Corner. Williams going with him in 2nd place. Levine Kishaw stays in 3rd, so grid order then for the top 3 as they drop down the hill now towards the old hairpin for the first time. And that slipstream starting to take effect, and also I think just the sheer pace that Robinson and Williams have this week starting to also take effect. They're already gapping Levine as they drop out of the old hairpin, but here maybe comes the first challenge for the race lead, and it's from Nathan Williams to the outside through Starkeys, but Robinson sees that coming, sweeps across in front of him, gets the inside line for McLean's. This is likely the order of the day, I suspect, through the rest of this opening race of the night. These two probably going to be pretty much inseparable, given how close their qualifying times have been anyway. Does look as though we're in for a pair of really good battles between these two drivers. Out of Coppice, down the exhibition straight. And again, the opportunity now for Nathan Williams as the chasing car to pick up the slipstream is there, but is he going to try and attack into the chicane? It's not really a place where you typically would make a lunge. It's more important to try and get a good exit from the chicane, and then maybe try and attack down into the Melbourne hairpin. Forced Robinson to defend. That might well help Williams in getting that run down the hill. which it has. Look, Robinson again has moved to the inside to cover. And these little defensive moves are also bringing Kishore back into the fight. So 3 of them for the lead as they head out of Melbourne for the first time. And climb up towards Goddard's at the end of the opening lap. George Robinson looks as though he's going to hang on to the race lead, but only just. He's got a real fight on his hands here from Williams, who again looks up the inside, takes the early apex. That's a lovely bit of overtaking there from Williams, and he does go through into the race lead. I think he sort of shocked Robinson there. I don't think Robinson was expecting that attack to come when it did. There's been drama down at the Melbourne hairpin, though. That's Oliver Newton, and I think he's tangled with Liam Bradley, because Bradley's also sort of detached from the field. It was the number 16 car, by the way, which had the connection issues. That was Gray at the start of the race, so he's in the pit lane. So we've already sort of lost 3, although Bradley and Newton continue in the race, but they're some way detached from the rest of the pack now. So 3 of them out of contention, but 3 at the front, very much in contention. And Nathan Williams into the lead of the race. Is he now going to be able to break away from Robinson? Robinson might have had the pace in qualifying, but Nathan Williams looks really quick now, doesn't he, in race conditions. And he's got, by Ginetta Junior standards, a reasonable lead as they head out of Schwantz and up through McLean's corner. James Pepper here, battling a bit further back, sweeping up ahead of the number 42 of Albert Henriksen. As there's drama at McLean's, one car spinning. I think Garcia was involved. That's Pepper again, actually. So Pepper somehow came out of that on the grass through McLean's and then sort of slides spectacularly back across the road and deposits himself in the gravel trap on the outside of the corner. So very much taking in some of the sights of Donington Park there was Pepper, but James finds himself as a result dropping some way down the field. Here in 6th place, Dalton Hayward, who drops down into the Melbourne hairpin. He has got William Antrobus ahead of him. Now, Antrobus did not qualify all that well, but the Alton Park podium finisher racing better than he qualified. He's into the top 5 now, heads out of Melbourne with a few car lengths advantage over Hayward behind him. About 0.8 of a second or so, officially speaking, but the lead gap, look, 1.1 seconds at the end of lap 2, so Williams and Robinson not quite as evenly matched maybe as I expected. Robinson needs to try and really get his act together here to stop Williams from pulling clear. Fastest lap of the race then for Nathan Williams, unofficially, but actually that was not a legitimate lap. He exceeded track limits on that one, so at the moment the official fastest lap does still stand with George Robinson in 2nd place. He did claw back a few tenths through the final sector there, so back within 9 tenths or so as they drop through the Craners for the 3rd time. Down towards the really quick right-hander at the old hairpin. Again, lots of curb on the inside line used there from George Robinson, who is just not quite able to live with the pace of Nathan Williams. Here's a good battle, though. We've had a couple of good battles going on further back. You've got Archie Flint here. Now, Archie, I don't believe, raced with us last time at Alton Park, and running well. Well, he was running well in 7th place, but Albert Henriksen Bell drives past him now, heading up the hill towards McLean's corner. Behind them, Luke Armstrong defending now from a recovering Garcia. Garcia gets the inside line up towards Coppice corner after his dramas a lap ago, and there's a little bit of clumsy contact there. Luke Armstrong finds himself in the gravel. Where did Garcia go? I think he sort of got away with it. He was delayed, definitely. But as Garcia was slipping up the inside, I think Armstrong tried to cut back to the late apex, tried to get the slipstream, the switchback, down the back straight, and just didn't quite time it right. So a bit of contact, but in the end, it's Armstrong who comes out of that the worst. Back on board now with Dalton Hayward, sat in 6th position, to the outside of William Antrobus as they head through McLean's up towards Goddard's corner. And Dalton Hayward wanting to try and convert 6th place into 5th place. Very evenly matched under braking. Dalton carrying more speed into the turn, but you can't drive through the car ahead of you. And thankfully, Dalton realised that right at the last second, backed off, but that really killed his exit speed. So that was more of a timing issue, really, wasn't it? He had the speed through the centre of the corner. Better sometimes just to back up the entry and really try and carry that speed off the turn rather than rolling into the apex when you've got a car right in front of you. Dalton will have to rebuild his attack now. He's well within slipstreaming range, and Antrobus doesn't seem to have the pace to get ahead of him or get away from him. Already ahead of him on track, but looking to try and build that margin down into the old hairpin. Some brilliant onboard views here, sat aboard the bonnet of Dalton Hayward's Ginetta G40. And from that camera view, you can see perfectly the extra speed that he took through the old hairpin. That slipstream now starting to pull him closer and closer all the time. As they head uphill towards McLean's corner, is he going to have a cheeky little look at the inside? He sort of feints to the inside, tries to force a mistake out of Andremus, which he does. Andremus carried too much speed into the corner, lost the rear of the car, and Hayward sees his chance, sweeps around the outside, and I think they'll clear him before Coppice. Yes, he does. Brilliant driving that from Dalton Hayward. Just planted that seed of doubt in William Andremus's mind there that he was going to have a go into McLean's. William carried too much speed into the corner, and that was the tiniest of mistakes that Hayward was after. So Dalton Hayward, who claims to be the real deal, I think we might have to start believing that, because that was a really classy bit of driving. That was definitely track limits, though, through the Fogarty S's. Needs to be careful doing that too often during the race, but understandably pushing hard to try and get away now from Andremus before William maybe has a chance to strike back at him. Now some good battling going on behind. Garcia here in 9th place, and he makes that 8th place by slipping up the inside rather aggressively of Archie Flint, and that I think is Albert Henriksen Bell just up the road having a moment of his own as well. So that was some close quarters racing. Not really sure what happened to the other car involved there. I don't think there was actually contact there, but they came very, very close to making contact. And Archie Flint now will try to retaliate if he can. Archie, I think, maybe a bit too aggressive on the downshifts there. That's what caused a loss of traction at the rear and to braking, which made it look like he'd been hit by Garcia, but I think they did keep it clean, although it was a very small gap and an ever-closing gap that Garcia went for. But anyway, it worked. He's got through, and he's already starting to pull away now. We know Garcia's got decent pace, just dropped down the order after his earlier incident. And now looking to try and chase down Henriksen, who's actually 5.4 seconds up the road. So a big gap now for Garcia to try and bridge. So there goes William Andremus, continuing his battle with Dalton Hayward. Now, Hayward's really not got away here, has he, from Andremus, the TNT Esports driver, sticking with him and learning, perhaps, from following Dalton, the parts of the circuit at which he was losing time previously. Henriksen is actually the next car behind these two, 2.3 seconds back. So 5th, 6th, and sort of 7th place there, all in the same shot. They drop through the chicane and head towards the Melbourne hairpin, ticking now towards half-race distance. And William Andremus, is he going to have a little lunge into the hairpin? He's too far back, isn't he, from there? Reasonably big braking zones, though, in these Ginetta Junior cars. No real aerodynamic aids. They've got that rear wing. They've got a bit of a rear diffuser, but it doesn't really aid downforce hugely. So that means it's quite a long braking zone. Plenty of scope for out-braking manoeuvres. That's exactly what we're hoping to see out of this battle, which actually just starts to separate slightly more now as they come out across the timing line. Something else interesting that just happened is that at the front of the field, the gap came down for the first time, I think, in quite a while. 0.3 of a second quicker that time was George Robinson than Williams. Now, Robinson did a 52.942, which was actually the fastest he'd been. He did exceed track limits on that lap, but it was his fastest lap of the race. Whereas Nathan Williams did a 53.2, which is 0.6 off his previous best. So I suspect that Nathan made a mistake somewhere on that lap, which has allowed Robinson to get a little bit closer. He needs to get closer still if he's going to really have a chance of picking up that slipstream. Oh, this will help, though. Mistake there from Williams. Runs out onto the grass. You'd have thought that would lose him traction up the hill, but actually accelerates nicely uphill towards Coppice corner. So the gap grows just by a length or so. Down the back straight again, you can see the live delta there on the left-hand side of the picture. 1.4 seconds, in fact, now it becomes as they head through the chicane. Good committed run in there, but that delta really not changing at all, is it? Even as they head through the corners. So George Robinson and Nathan Williams really are very evenly matched. It's just that Nathan was a little bit hotter on cold tyres in the early stages. Was able to pounce and get the lead with a lovely move at the final turn. George Robinson so far not really able to retaliate. And meanwhile, the battle for 5th continues on its way down through the Melbourne hairpin. Dalton Hayward ahead of William Antrobus, but you do get the feeling, don't you, that Antrobus has got a bit of a retaliation in the offing here. He's quick, or as quick as Hayward. Question really is whether he's going to be able to find a way past the number 68 car or not. And are they both catching Louis Neal ahead? I think they might be. Neal does a 55.5 and a 54.5 for William Antrobus, so he is catching the fourth place driver. That gap coming down quite noticeably, so 1.7 seconds it is at the moment. Let's see what it is by the end of the lap. If he can get within a second or so of Neal, then he'll start to pick up a bit of a slipstream. Means the last bit of real estate between the two cars will evaporate pretty quickly if that happens. Down through Old Hairpin. This is the part of the circuit seemingly where Hayward is really strong, actually. Gets away from Antrobus slightly. Being Kishore, by the way, in third place, just in a purple first sector. He's sort of in no man's land, though, really, Levine. 3.8 seconds behind second place and 8.5 seconds ahead of this pair, but he is pushing hard, Levine Kishore, to maybe try and steal the fastest lap, which is worth championship points, remember. Out of Coppice again. Battle continuing on. Say battle, but really Hayward does seem to have Antrobus at arm's length for the time being, doesn't he? So down towards Melbourne again. And Louis Neal in fourth position is, well, through the second half of the lap being caught again, but he had actually got that gap back up to about 2.2 seconds or so there. And you can definitely see it's come down as they come out of the final turn. So Louis Neal needs to work on that final sector. He's good through the high-speed stuff through the first two-thirds of the lap, but it's the tight and twisty stuff at the end of the lap, the two hairpins in particular, where he seems to be dropping a little bit of time, so maybe needs a bit more confidence under braking. And needs to not run quite so wide out of Redgate Corner as well. Bouncing down the grass there, you can see, loses him exit speed. The gap starts to creep back down again now. And Dalton Hayward is within a lap or so at this rate, going to be in a position to maybe challenge for fourth place. Around the old hairpin then. Climb uphill now through Starkey's and Schwantz curve. Doesn't look like it's uphill really from this camera angle, but I can assure you, having walked it a few times, it definitely is. That uphill approach to McLean's actually helps you when you get to the corner because you can carry a bit more speed through the right-hander than you think. With gravity on your side, slowing you down a bit more. A wide moment there from Louis Neal through McLean's, but it does seem that you can run wide through McLean's and not actually lose any time. If anything, it's the quicker way through the corner, so definitely running the risk of exceeding track limits, but no real disadvantage, seemingly, definitely, to running that line. Let's see what Dalton Hayward does differently here to Louis Neal through the final sector. This is where he's been taking time out of him. Well, immediately, look, much quicker through the chicane. Carried more speed in and maintained that speed through the centre. Gained 3/10 just through the chicane alone. Then he's later on the brakes fractionally into the hairpin. A big moment, actually, for Louis there at the apex. He over-rotated the car. And that means that Dalton Hayward is well and truly within slipstreaming range now. He's also 2.2 seconds suddenly ahead of William Antrobus behind. So Dalton Hayward in a perfect position here. He's caught the car ahead. He's got no threat from the car behind. And he's got 4.5 minutes still to try and find a way past Louis Neal to claim fourth position. Back up through the gears he goes, riding on board then with the fifth place man. Can we now start to see that slipstream bringing them ever closer? Took a full second out of Neal on that lap. He takes a much earlier turn into Redgate Corner, but that really works. You hook up that inside curve. That helps rotate the car as well. And you can see that he takes more speed into the corner, but still maintains that gain on the way out. So Louis Neal, who I believe is flashing the lights a little bit to try and signal to Hayward that he wants to work together. I don't think Dalton Hayward's going to pay any attention to that. You're 12 seconds behind the podium runners and continuing to pull away from William Antrobus. I think Dalton Hayward's got only one thing on his mind, and that is an overtake to try and move up into fourth place. Time quickly running out as well in this one. Oh, that's James Pepper off the road, not for the first time in this race. Garcia continues to battle with Henricks and Bell here. Albert Henricks and Bell in 7th position. 1.2 seconds. The gap between them. For Dalton Hayward, the target is clear. He wants 4th position away from Louis Neal. Turns now into the Melbourne hairpin for what will not actually be the penultimate time. They're going to get 2 more laps out of this one. So as they head for Melbourne, Louis, well, in fairness to him, not really making many mistakes anymore, and he's also not fallen into the trap of over-defending or defending too early. Hayward is close, but he's not really close enough to lunge, so there's no real need for Louis to be driving defensively just yet. And you can see there, takes the normal racing line up towards Redgate Corner, so that's sensible stuff. Late on the brakes then. Again, Hayward just takes that slightly earlier turn in there. That's definitely benefiting him because Louis Neal isn't able to rotate over that inside curb as well. The inside curb, because it's raised, it sort of leans the car more to one side, and that helps rotation. Good trick to be used through corners like Redgate, like McLean's as well. Try and get that car turning a bit better. Following here, Albert Henricks and Bell, 42, running in 7th position. He's got the car of Adrian Rios Garcia behind him. They climb through Schwann's curve. Garcia might yet have a chance to take 7th place away. Garcia's been charging back up the order after that earlier drama. Closes in now on Henriksen towards Coppice Corner. Doesn't even think about looking to the inside through Coppice itself. Instead focusing on, again, carrying the speed out, getting in the slipstream down the exhibition straight. Maybe trying to force a mistake out of the car ahead when they get to the chicane. Don't forget, it's still Nathan Williams leading the race. 1.8 seconds his margin over George Robinson. 6.2 further back then to Levine Kishore in 3rd. With Louis Neal, Dalton Hayward and William Antrobus completing the top half dozen. This is the fight for 7th. It's the closest battle on the track right now. And Albert Henricks and Bell is going to have some defending to do, I think, on this final lap. But again, like I was saying with Louis Neal, he's not defending yet, and that's really smart driving. Oh, that was less smart, though. A bit too eager on the throttle coming out of Melbourne. Loses traction, loses momentum. Will that mean that he loses the place when they arrive at Goddard's? I don't think Garcia's quite close enough. No, he's not. Henricks and Bell really sent it into the corner there with some aggression to try and make sure that he did cover off any potential lunge. Garcia, perhaps as a result of that, comes off the turn better, and I think this time he is going to have to go defensive into Redgate Corner. It's such a tempting move to make this, especially at the start of the final lap. Is Garcia going to go for it? No, but Henricks and Bell thought he might dive to the early apex and watch that scrub off speed on the exit. Well, actually, it does more than that. He runs way wide over the grass, and that now gives Garcia the run. He's side by side through Hollywood and dropping down through the crater curves. We're going to have a change for 7th place, and that was just that pressure being applied by Adrian Rios Garcia, and it meant that Albert Henricks and Bell just made a bit of a mistake. But Henricks and Bell now in a position where he's got the slipstream to try and maybe retaliate over the final half a lap. Down towards the Fogarty S's, though, comes the race leader for the final time. He's just put a lap, I believe, on Oliver Newton there. Really uses all of the curb on the inside there through both apexes of the chicane, but Nathan Williams has driven well here. Lovely move on cold tyres there in the early stages, the end of lap 1 through the hairpin. And it was a really brilliant move. Caught Robinson by surprise a little bit, I think. And that means that since that point, really, Robinson's not been able to retaliate. The gap went up over a second. It hovered around 1.5 to 2 seconds all race long. And Nathan Williams really never looked back. He accelerates out of the final corner. The time has ticked to 0. The checkered flag awaits. And for Nathan Williams, it is going to be a 2nd victory of the season. And the 2nd time this year, this season, that he's won the 1st race of the evening as well. George Robinson 2nd. Levine Kishore goes grass tracking off the final corner, but does come home in 3rd. Whilst Louis Neal, I think, with one of the real drivers of the race there, actually, defending, well, not even defending, just finding the pace to keep Dalton Hayward at bay to the flag, and Louis Neal will come home in 4th place. Hayward then comes home in 5th. 6th place should be William Antromus, but he was nearly caught at the end there by Garcia and Henriksen, who themselves had that entertaining battle for 7th place, with Archie Flint, the next one due through. Here he comes out of the final turn. Archie running under an Italian flag, according to that graphic. Not a particularly Italian-sounding name, but Archie comes home in 9th nonetheless. Luke Armstrong will be in 10th position. Of course, all of these drivers, whilst they'll be disappointed, no doubt, with their race result from this one, they will at least pick up good grid positions for race 2, including James Pepper, who will come home in 11th place, the last car home at the end of what was a very well-behaved race, actually, I have to say. Really good driving standards throughout there. Not a huge amount of contact, a little bit in the early stages, but certainly not once the race settled down a little bit. And that means that we will have hopefully more of the same in race 2, but we also have a chance, I think, to have a chat with our podium finishers, and it was a second victory of the season then for our race 1 winner last time, Alton Park, Nathan Williams, who joins us again in the commentary box. Nathan, big congratulations, a great win that. Talk us through the move that you made in the early stages to take the lead though, because that certainly caught me by surprise.
I've noticed that I was being caught by third. Just kind of had to go for any opportunity to avoid losing second position.
And you were obviously feeling confident under braking because you braked an awful lot later than George did. Was there a moment where maybe you thought you might still be a bit too far back?
Yeah, I know. My front left rear locked a bit, and I thought I was just going to go right into the side of him then for a bit. But luckily it worked out.
Yeah, thankfully contact averted, and from that point you really just had to put in about 18 minutes worth of qualifying laps, but the pace between you two is so evenly matched, isn't it? It's going to be a fantastic season watching you two battle. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, we could.
Good stuff. Well, Nathan Williams, congratulations on the race victory then. A second victory of the season for Nathan, who's going to have to come from the back of the grid now in race number 2. Second place, though, in that race was his seemingly championship rival, it would appear, in the early stages, George Robinson. George, second place, solid points, but I'm sure there's a bit of you that's a bit gutted to give the lead away in the early stages, because from that point on, there really wasn't a huge amount of speed difference between the two of you.
Yeah, after such a good qualifying, it's a shame to give the lead away so easily.
What was your perspective of that move then? Did it catch you by surprise a bit?
Yeah, he came from quite far back. I really wasn't expecting it, and then it was just trying to avoid the contact.
Which thankfully you did, and then sort of maybe spent the rest of the race learning, perhaps. Is there anything you think you can do differently now in race 2 to try and get one back on him?
Hopefully just have a good start and then get through the pack a bit quicker than him, and then should be a good race.
Yeah, that certainly is the plan. George, congratulations on that second place finish, and best of luck for race 2.
Thank you.
George Robinson then in second position. Third place, a familiar name to me at least, having covered the previous series here on PASR, even, easy for me to say. Levine Kishore. Levine, welcome back to the commentary box. Third place finish, and a bit of a boring race for you, I think, wasn't it? Certainly a lonely race. Sometimes that's not a bad thing, but I'm sure you'd have loved to have been in that lead battle.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't have the pace to be up front. But, you know, it was good. It was damage limitation, considering the fact that I was just off pace compared to the leaders.
Indeed. Well, third place, though, not a bad result. We're going to let you go, Levine, because you've got the second race to come. But very best of luck for that one. And well done on a podium finish.
Thank you.
There were your top 3 finishers. From what was an entertaining race, but certainly I think we're going to see a bit more action in race number 2, which is going to be coming your way very shortly. We don't hang about here, and we'll have our second race here from Donington Park even in just a few moments' time. Remember, this equivalent race a week ago saw George Robinson claim a victory, having finished second in the first race. So he'll be looking to try and repeat that feat here, but he'll have to do so from towards the very back of the grid, because it is a full reverse grid. So Oliver Newton will be starting from pole position, and he will have James Pepper for company alongside him. Then third position for Luke Armstrong, fourth place Archie Flint, with Albert Henriksen and Adrian Rios Garcia on that third row of the grid, and then you have to go all the way back to 11th and 12th to find the top two from the previous race, with Levine Kishore, of course, starting just ahead of them. So this could be a particularly entertaining opening lap or so of racing. The red lights are on. Out they will go now. Our second race of the night underway here at Donington Park. A good start seemingly made there from Newton from pole position. Newton's going to try and hold the lead as they head towards the first corner. Luke Armstrong there holding third place. He's on that inside line, the grey and purple car, but it looks as though it's going to be the pole sitter. Is it? No, sweeping round the outside comes Archie Flint, trying to get the lead away, and he does so. Sorry, James Pepper that was, wasn't it? James Pepper into the lead. Fantastic stuff. Flint goes second, and Newton dropping down to third. There's William Antrobus up the inside of Garcia, I think that is, for about sixth position. I say about because they're all sort of chopping and changing places, and they drop down the hill as contact, and that's the race one winner. Around goes Antrobus, but in the background, that looked like Kishore and Williams both involved in some contact. There's more drama exiting the old hairpin, and I fear more carnage to be had. Yes, around has gone Dalton Hayward. Henriksen Bell is off the road too. Absolute carnage down at the old hairpin at the, well, halfway round, not even halfway round the first lap of racing. And that is what we feared, really, in the reverse grid race. But big drama then for Nathan Williams. Really the first big drama for either of our two early championship rivals. And Williams will have it all to do again now. Now, where do we see... yeah, Robinson's third already. Look at that. George Robinson, third place already. So disaster that for Williams. And Robinson has a real opportunity now to try and get something back from this. The safety car, though, has been scrambled. That's not a huge surprise, really. And that gives everyone a chance just to catch their breath, assess the damage, and more importantly, close back up on the safety car queue. Liam Bradley backing it into the chicane there. Doesn't really need to do that with the safety car having been scrambled already. So Archie Flint then, somewhere in all of that, got the lead back as well from James Pepper. So we had, I think, 3 different leaders through the first half a lap there. With Newton leading initially off pole. Pepper went round the outside of him at Redgate. Flint has now subsequently found himself into the lead. And he would have been loving the opportunity to pull away there, but the safety car coming out means that's not going to happen. Again, sideways action there for Levine Kishore, who slips up the inside of Luke Armstrong, and will now have to give that back because there is a safety car out. Levine should give it back anyway, because the safety car is out. There you can see it, the Ginetta G55, I think, although outwardly it looks almost identical to a 56, but I think it is a 55 that Jordan Taylor is driving. This is a lot slower than Jordan's used to going, but Jordan Taylor will gather them all up. Archie Flint the first to close in behind him. James Pepper second. Robinson third. Kishore fourth. So Robinson and Kishore both got through all of that without any drama. Oh dear, and the message not getting through to Hayden Gray, who thankfully realises what's going on at the last second and avoids contact with anybody. But I think Luke Armstrong needs to be back ahead of Levine Kishore here. Kishore definitely got past before the line, but after the safety car had been scrambled. And as far as I understand it, you don't race back to the line. You race until the safety car is called for. So we'll wait and see what comes of that. But there is George Robinson, undoubtedly the winner of that. Although Nathan Williams gets another chance now to, at least he's not lost too much ground. I didn't see who got into Nathan. I just saw him getting tagged sideways, going through the left-hand element of the crater curves. And may have been Kishore, but I don't want to apportion any blame until I've had a chance to see it again, maybe afterwards. But Kishore, I think, is now letting... No, he's not. In fact, he's overtaking someone else now. Okay. Levine Kishore up into fourth place now. The safety car rules do apply to everybody equally. Levine, I don't see any reason why, unless he feels that he was ahead of those two when the safety car was scrambled, because we didn't cut to them straight away, did we, when that safety car period was called for. So not entirely sure what's going on there, but Levine is going to take the restart in fourth place. Archie Flint is going to take it from the race lead, though, and that restart is coming at the end of this lap. The safety car lights are off. It is heading to the pit lane, and it means that Archie Flint now becomes the control car, and he will decide when he wants to accelerate and get the race back underway. Through the Melbourne hairpin then. Is he going to accelerate nice and early? No, not yet. Still weaving, still hanging back, just biding his time. He's going to try and catch them off guard. Accelerate when they don't expect it to. Now he's gone, look, as they go into the Goddard's hairpin, but that didn't really give him a massive advantage. And James Pepper is going to go with him here, very much so, as is George Robinson in third place. This surely is a golden opportunity then for George Robinson to strike back, get a race victory, and that's Nathan Williams around. Nathan Williams with a spin at the Goddard's hairpin before we even get the race restarted. What was that all about? You have to imagine that he didn't do that by himself. But again, we shall have to wait and see. The race is back underway, though. Further up the road, Levine Kishore there sat in fourth position, and out wide goes James Pepper. That immediately allows George Robinson to break through into second position. We're hearing it was contact with William Antrobus that sent Nathan Williams around, so he is going to be very, very upset about that. And well, again, we don't know who was to blame as such, only that there was a touch between the two of them, but Williams now is a long way back, even further back than he would have been actually before the safety car came out. That's Hayden Gray off the track at the old hairpin. Through goes Liam Bradley, through goes the aforementioned William Antrobus into 8th position. Hayden Gray drops back into 9th place. Up at the front of the field, though, George Robinson about to attack for the race lead. Peaks to the inside at Coppice Corner. Archie Flint, though, hanging on valiantly for the time being, but he gets a bit of a rear-end slide going into Coppice Corner. Just carried a bit too much speed into the turn. Robinson sees his chance, pulls to the right-hand side of the road. Now, on the national circuit, this would be the preferred line into the chicane, but we're turning left at the end of the straight, not right, and that might just save Archie, at least for the time being. Is he late enough on the brakes to hang on? Well, yes, he is. Nicely judged, actually, there to keep Robinson at bay. And what Archie really needs to try and do is back Robinson up into Pepper, into Kishore, into Louis Neal, who are all queuing up behind him. Here comes Kishore, actually having a big look up the inside of James Pepper, and he might get into the back of Robinson if he's not careful. Just avoided the contact, had to stand on the brakes and almost stop the car completely at the Melbourne hairpin, and settles back in line in 4th position. Does get ahead of Louis Neal, but doesn't manage to get into 3rd place. Meanwhile, Robinson again challenging to the outside line, into the Goddard's hairpin. Can he go right around the outside? There's a hip check there. Levine Kishore gets shoveled out wide by Louis Neal, but look at the front of the field. George Robinson sweeps right around the outside of Archie Flint, gets the lead away, and that was really good driving by both of them. Good, aggressive driving from Robinson to try the outside move, and really sensible, gentlemanly driving from Flint to leave him the space. There goes James Pepper now at the inside for 2nd position as well, although Pepper then gets sideways at the apex of Redgate Corner. Flint sees a gap on the left and tries to go back through into P2. Down through Hollywood they will run then on the right as we look at it. Archie Flint on the left. James Pepper. Flint tries to commit. Pepper leaves him space again. Good to see that. Good racecraft between the two of them. And Flint actually sweeps back through on that outside line at the old hairpin. Archie Flint back into 2nd place. The back, meanwhile, Levine Kishore there battling with Luke Armstrong. So Levine passed Luke, seemingly behind the safety car earlier on, but he now finds himself back behind him again. Or specifically around the outside, or through McLean's. He finds the gravel trap. That will slow the car down instantly and might allow Liam Bradley and William Antrobus to get up the inside of him as well. In fact, no, Kishore keeps on coming around the outside of Armstrong. Fair play there, Levine. Kept his foot in it and manages to move back into 5th position. Contact, though. Bradley goes around, goes back into the road, and again catches Nathan Williams, who cannot buy a bit of good fortune in this race. Nathan Williams, what an unfortunate series of events, really, in this race that has seen him for the 3rd time involved in contact that wasn't his fault. And he finds himself right back towards the tail end of the field once again. So, well, Hendricks and Bell continuing to battle. You've got Dalton Haywood in this group as well, the green and yellow car. Dalton, remember, one of the fast drivers from the earlier race. As Hendricks and Bell tries to slip up the inside of Hayden Gray, who himself has a few stories to tell after this one. Oh, change for 2nd. James Pepper levering aside Archie Flint at the Melbourne hairpin. Corner at which he lost the lead a lap ago to George Robinson around the outside. This time loses a spot to James Pepper on the inside. Luke Armstrong's gone around at that very same corner. But Archie Flint again displaying some good racecraft here, coming straight back at James Pepper. Doesn't want to leave Pepper with an opportunity to get into the rhythm and pull away. Strikes straight back up the inside, but he overdoes it slightly. Runs wide on the exit. Pepper will go back through. And maybe Louis Neal as well. Neal had a solid run in that first race, didn't he, to 4th place. And he's now sat in the same position again. Putting together almost a George Robinson-esque pair of races, really, that we saw from George last time at Alton. Don't have to be winning races to be scoring plenty of points. And Louis Neal fully aware that 2nd place would be a good result here. He tries to get back into 3rd, first of all, up alongside Archie Flint, heading through Schwantz Curve. That gives him the inside line for McLean's. And Louis, I think, should be able to go through here. Or can Archie hang tough around the outside? He's going to try. And again, great racing room left there. I mean, I don't know where Levine Kishore thinks he's going. Way wide over the grass again. And that time has to bail out of it, but really good racing between the two of them. Again, they are still side by side and still leaving each other plenty of room as they come out of Coppice. And look at that, Archie Flint deservedly, you have to say, into third position there. Really good racecraft from both of them. He realised the outside line at McLean's was going to allow him a bit more momentum and therefore was able to clear Louis Neal as they climbed uphill towards Coppice. William Antrobus also trying to become a part of this fight, whilst for the third time in this race, Nathan Williams tries to climb his way back up the order. That was 12th place that he just took away from Liam Bradley, who himself has had some dramas already. Back to Hayden Gray now, who's coming under attack from, well, Luke Armstrong and Dalton Hayward, who loops it coming out of the hairpin. And Dalton a bit too eager there to try to complete the manoeuvre. He got to the inside at the apex, but he knew he didn't want to get stuck on the outside at Goddard's. And floored the throttle a bit too aggressively. Ends up pointing the wrong way, ends up dropping back behind Nathan Williams. So that's another place gained for Nathan. So back across the timing line towards Redgate Corner they go. Luke Armstrong then in 8th position. Is looking like he's getting away, not getting away from the two cars behind, although he might do now because Hayden Gray had Albert Henriksen up the inside. Albert has to leave that one go, and now that's Kishore around with Archie Flint, who does a good job of saving it, actually, but Levine Kishore has been in the wars in this race. He spins off the road, and that promotes, amongst others, William Antrobus. William Antrobus up into 4th place now, really benefiting from that. And William Antrobus in the TNT Esports car, but not teammates, I believe. And, well, even so, Antrobus, the beneficiary there, moves into 4th, Flint down to 5th, Garcia up to 6th, Armstrong 7th, and Kishore rejoins all the way down in 13th place. You can just see him at the back of shot there, behind Dalton Hayward, Liam Bradley, and Nathan Williams. So the Craner Curves have not been a happy hunting ground for a few of our Ginetta Junior drivers in this race. A couple of major dramas. George Robinson, though, facing no dramas in this one, really. He just picked his way through the chaos, gets into the race lead. 7.2 seconds now, his lead that he enjoys over James Pepper in 2nd. Louis Neal is 3rd. William Antrobus 4th. Archie Flint 5th. Garcia 6th. Armstrong 7th. Gray in 8th. Henriksen 9th. And Williams in 10th position. So out of Melbourne goes Hayden Gray. Howard Henriksen right in behind. Is he going to have a little lunge into the Melbourne hairpin? No, Hayden has, I've noticed, actually been taking that defensive line quite a lot in this race. I think that's just his line, really, through Goddard's. Doesn't seem to lose many exit speed, does it, going in tight? But they're all going to have a fired-up Nathan Williams back on their tail in a moment or two. You can see him, the black and white striped car in the background, looming ever larger. Williams on the previous lap did a 53.6, so about 2 seconds quicker than this group of cars ahead of him. We know how quick he is. He's just not had the look. Well, maybe a bit of good fortune might be coming his way now because Albert Henriksen Bell nearly made that overtake an awful lot easier for Williams, who's flashing the lights at him as they drop down through the Craner Curves. But Henriksen Bell gathers it together, gets back on the road. And Nathan Williams in no mood to mess around now, is he? He wants to make this move as quickly as he can. We're right on board with the Race 1 winner, the championship leader currently as well as a result of that. But this second race may well change that a little bit. Up ahead, look, there's a good battle going on. That's Hayden Gray back up the inside of Luke Armstrong, attempting to go up the inside of him anyway for 7th place. But Luke hangs on round the outside. Henriksen defending in the background from Nathan Williams, who tries the switchback, tries the wide entry into Coppice, but actually didn't really get on the power there. You can flash your headlights all you like, Nathan, but I think it's clear already that Albert's not going to put the indicator on and move out of the way. I have to try and do this the hard way, down towards the chicane. 6 minutes of racing still to go. Nathan Williams desperate to try and regain some positions. Again, Henriksen sideways. I think he might have overheated those rear tyres. He tries to come over to defend, but also to avoid a grass-tracking Hayden Gray. And this might now allow Nathan Williams to gain 2 places in one. He's on the inside line. Into the hairpin he goes. Gets the car stopped, rotates nicely at the apex, and that was the first bit of good fortune, really, that Nathan's had all race long, as the 2 cars ahead both made small mistakes and almost waved him by, really. Hayden now going to try and get back up the inside of Henriksen, and well, okay, that's one way of doing it. Henriksen is shoveled off onto the grass. I think that's definitely one for the clerk of the course to have a look at after the race. But that was certainly a robust bit of driving from Hayden, who I had pointed out likes that early turn-in and the late braking into Goddard's, but to make sure you stop the car if you're getting up the inside of someone. Right, next target for Nathan Williams is Luke Armstrong. This is for 7th position. Grabs another gear as he drops down the hill. All over the back of Armstrong. Nowhere to go, though, into the old hairpin. Armstrong defends the inside line. Now, that gives Williams a chance maybe to get the switch back on the exit. Look at that. Perfectly judged. Misses the back of Armstrong's car by a matter of inches. And he will switch straight back to the right-hand side of the road. Clears him before they get to Schwant's curve. And Nathan Williams now sets off after Archie Flint. That is likely as good as it will get, though, for Nathan, because Archie is then 5 seconds behind Garcia in 5th position. I think even for Nathan Williams, that might be too much of an ask. Now, for 2nd place, Louis Neal and James Pepper. Louis Neal perhaps on to be one of the best scorers of the night. And he's looking to the outside of James Pepper now as they head into the Fogarty S's. Late on the brakes, but not quite as late as Pepper, who in fairness gets it stopped as well there on the inside line, but quicker off the turn is Louis Neal. Is there a gap on the inside? Just about. Pepper didn't quite get over to the inside far enough to cover. And so Louis Neal has a chance to break into 2nd position here. Late on the brakes. Needs to get the car stopped, though. He snatches the inside brake, runs too wide, and Pepper will nip up the inside. Nice bit of driving there from James Pepper. And again, read that situation well. Realised, I think, that Louis was going in a bit hot, and as soon as Neal snatched that inside brake, that was Pepper's opportunity to get the switch back. Oh, drama for Archie Flint there, stationary down at the Melbourne hairpin. Now, that had all the hallmarks, actually, of a hardware issue or a connection problem of some sort. Very strange place for the car to be stopped, and he should really have been able to carry on despite that. Back to the 2nd place battle, though. Louis Neal and James Pepper, both of them actually have displayed some really good racecraft tonight, and I think that Louis Neal is perhaps a candidate for driver of the round because of that. Some really clean driving. Certainly I haven't seen anything untoward, and he's been patient as well in his battle here with James Pepper. Sweeps past him as they head down through the crater curves, and Louis Neal does now make 2nd place his own. Back from that little mistake at the Melbourne hairpin earlier on. James Pepper immediately jumps on the headlight flasher button as he tries to find a way back into the head, maybe, of Louis Neal and force a mistake out of him. Carries lots of speed through the turn, does James. In fairness, that might work. Well, actually, I think he was trying to avoid running into the back of Louis there as they came off McLean's corner. So as they exit Coppice, order stays the same. Andrews 4th has been caught by Garcia, you can just see in the background as well. So a couple of pairs of battling teenagers to watch out for here. Louis Neal trying to hang on from Jordan Pepper, who's focusing all of his attention onto hitting the headlight flashing button and not necessarily enough on hitting the apex at the chicane, because he had a bad run through the Fogarty S's. Drops a car length or so as they drop into the Melbourne hairpin. And Louis Neal doesn't have to defend, therefore, onto the brakes. Andrews and Garcia continuing to run in the same order. Williams now up into 6th position, but is still nearly 4 seconds behind that pair. As there, George Robinson is up the inside. Sorry, Bradley, that is, up the inside, I should say, of Hayden Gray. George Robinson sets the fastest lap. So far ahead is he that he's just crossed the line. Now, did he cross the line with enough time to do another lap? I don't think so. I think this will be the final lap of the race. Just about, actually. Yeah, it might be touch and go that. He might have got there in time to squeeze 2 more laps out of this one. We'll wait and see. Bad news if that's the case for William Andrews, because that's even longer than he has to defend from Garcia, and it gives Nathan Williams another lap to try and close in on them with 2 laps of the race to go. He might have time to get there, the pace he's showing. Williams just put the fastest lap of the race in, 53.249. About a 10th quicker than the race leader is doing, but crucially about 1.2 seconds quicker than these two did ahead of him. Oh, but he's pushing hard. Look in the background, all over the grass there was Williams coming down through the old hairpin, where a brilliant battle pack arrives. Luke Armstrong just ahead of Liam Bradley, who's just ahead of Hayden Gray, and it's not that far back then to Dalton Hayward and Albert Henriksen, both of whom ran better than this in race number 1. Liam Bradley now getting up the inside of Luke Armstrong. Hayden Gray's got a grandstand view of all of this, but he'd rather not just be an interested observer. He'd like to get involved in the fight as well, and he might get his chance now. Wide line into Coppice corner. Those two going side by side are going to delay each other. Look at the extra speed that Hayden can take off the corner as a result, but look at the extra speed that Dalton Hayward has taken off the corner in the wing mirrors. Dalton Hayward actually up alongside Hayden Gray as they drop down the straight and towards the Fogarty S's. Gray on the inside, Hayward on the outside. Is he late enough on the brakes? Surely not. Hayden Gray, we know, is last of the late breakers and does indeed manage to fend him off. Across the line, meanwhile, with, yes, just about time for one more lap, goes George Robinson. He is in a league of his own in this race, 16.5 seconds up the road. All of the action has been happening behind him, and there's more of that still occurring. Albert Henriksen here up the inside of Hayden Gray. You've got Dalton Hayward, who somehow ended up losing a place in all of that, and gets a bit sideways coming out of the Melbourne hairpin as well. Luke Armstrong and Liam Bradley ducking and diving as they debate 7th place. Bradley going to try the long way round at the Goddard's hairpin. That was never really likely to work, but he does carry better speed off the turn. Oliver Newton in the background having a spin, you can see up at Coppice corner, but we don't want to tear our eyes away from this battle just yet. They've actually got Levine Kishaw catching them as well. Levine Kishaw lapping quicker than the group ahead. So there, Luke Armstrong defending from Liam Bradley, clips the curb, gets sideways. Meanwhile, this is Garcia at the inside of Antrobus for 4th position. And if these two really start battling, Nathan Williams will be there, and they are battling. Out wide onto the grass goes Garcia, and Williams could still end up inside the top 4 here. Door banging off onto the grass goes Antrobus, and that's definitely going to give Williams the run. He will clear Antrobus, and he's going to have about half a lap to try and find a way past Garcia, who jinks to the inside to defend into McLean's corner. Henriksen Bell has found himself in the gravel. That's down at the old hairpin, perhaps courtesy of Hayden Gray. We'll have to wait and see if that had anything to do with Hayden. But here is Nathan Williams again, tries that switchback, gets the overlap on the inside line coming out of Coppice corner, gets his nose ahead. Can he get his whole car ahead though as they head down the exhibition straight? He needs to, because they turn left at the end of it. There's still a tiny little bit of an overlap there for Garcia, who tries to come back at him, under braking into the chicane, but Williams turns into the corner aggressively and will recover to 4th position. And actually Nathan Williams putting in one of the drives of the night as well. Really good racing here from Nathan. But even better driving in a way for George Robinson, because he claims a victory by 18.3 seconds. That is unheard of in Ginetta Junior competition. George Robinson will be very, very pleased with that. Maximum points from the race. Well, not quite actually, because Williams stole the fastest lap earlier on. Louis Neal comes home in 2nd place though, and definitely has to be my candidate for driver of the round. Brilliant driving that from Louis. 3rd place James Pepper. 4th for the recovering, 3 times recovering Nathan Williams, and it's a drag race for 4th, but it's William Antrobus who just hangs on from Garcia. More drama at the final corner though. That was Liam Bradley sideways. Luke Armstrong's going to come home in 7th. Bradley, I think, will, as a result of that, beat Levine Kishaw to the line for 8th place, and Kishaw by 21 thousandths of a second manages to pip Hayden Gray to finish in 9th place. A bruising race that for Levine Kishaw. Wasn't the only one, in fairness, to be involved in some drama, but he certainly seemed to be at the centre of a lot of it and finds himself with a finishing position of a slightly disappointing 9th place. So that was a bit more like it, really, wasn't it? Proper Ginetta Junior racing, a little bit of contact in places, but overall, just some really good side-by-side action. And looking forward to hearing then from our top 3 finishers in that one, who I believe are slowly but surely making their way into the commentary box. And well, George Robinson manages to get the race victory, exactly what he did last time out at Alton Park for George, managing to come 2nd in the first race, but then claiming the victory in race 2. And George got to be happy with that one. A lot of that race result, though, really stemming from the early laps, where you just seemed to manage to pick your way through the drama when others couldn't. That must have been pretty hairy, though, for a bit.
Yeah, it was the first 2 or 3 laps were all about keeping out of the chaos, and then after that I got a bit lucky with the safety car putting me up to leaders, and then after that it was just getting past the leaders and driving away.
It's difficult, though, to show patience, isn't it, sometimes in that situation when you're on the tail of the leaders, you know you've got the pace to win the race, but you've just got to kind of wait for that clear opportunity to make the move, because it's so easy to end up making contact with drivers who maybe you're not that used to racing against.
Yeah, I'd much rather take 2nd place than attempt for the lead and then have a massive crash and end up finishing 12th or something like that.
And of course, it was one of those races really for Nathan where he just couldn't seem to avoid the trouble. He did recover to 4th place, but you've got a few points back on him. How focused are you on Nathan in the early stage of the season? Because certainly it looks like you two are the early title favourites, but are you just focusing on him? Are you just kind of going for race wins and letting the points sort themselves out? What's your championship mentality at the moment?
Probably for the first couple of rounds, I'll just focus on myself and make sure I'm doing the best job. And then if it comes down to it in the final rounds, I'll focus on trying to make sure I score points over them.
Sounds like a game plan then for George Robinson. George, congratulations. Really, really good drive from you tonight. And we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
George Robinson then gets a race win here at Donington Park to go along with his race 2 victory from Alton a week ago. Now, a lot of the action was really happening some way behind him, about 18 seconds behind him, actually, in what was a very entertaining fight for 2nd place. And it was Louis Neal who came out on top in that one then with a 2nd place finish. Louis, well done on that. Some really good side-by-side racing you had with a number of people, including James, towards the closing stages. Did you enjoy that? Oh, we're not hearing Louis at the moment, so let's try that again. Louis, can you hear us over there? I'll take that as a no. Okay, well, what we'll do, we'll leave Louis for the moment. We'll come back to him in a few seconds. In the meantime, we'll have a chat with our 2nd place finisher, though, James Pepper, who does hopefully... our 3rd place finisher, sorry, James Pepper, who does join us in the commentary box now. And James, same question to you, really, because we really enjoyed watching that battle that you had there with Louis. You fought as hard as you could to hang on, but in the end had to settle for 3rd.
Yeah, it was quite difficult. I think Levine and Nathan battling behind, just sort of hoping they'd sort of bring a gap. Louis was always going to get the better, quicker driver. He deserves 2nd, but I think I could have had him a bit of oversteer coming out of the hairpin. But other than that, can't ask for more.
Yeah, absolutely. A really solid race. And you always learn a lot more, don't you, when you can have a clean race and sort of really engage in some good side-by-side racing, because racecraft is so important in a category like Ginetta Junior. So do you feel like you are now starting to learn and gaining confidence with every race that goes by?
Yeah, definitely. The car's got its challenges, quite difficult at times, but yeah, the side-by-side action gives the racecraft and shows it quite well on the drivers.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the cleanest racing we saw came from you two up towards the sharp end. Your thoughts for next week then? A new challenge, of course. We move on from Donington Park, and I'm sure you'll be looking to try and build on this now. You've got that first podium, and I'm sure the next target realistically is a race win. How likely do you think are we to see you on the top step of the podium in the next few rounds?
Well, I would definitely like to get back up on the podium again, but at the end of the day, it's just trying to keep away from the incidents and then getting quicker than George, Louis and Nathan.
Which is not going to be easy to do, but James, we wish you the very best of luck with that. We'll see you again next week, and great to have a new name on the podium. Well done. James Pepper then, 3rd place finish in that race. Doesn't look like we're going to get a chance to chat to Louis Neal, which is a shame because it's been decided amongst the broadcast and organisational team that Louis Neal is our driver of the round, so he will receive the racing gloves as driver of the round then this week. And we congratulate him for some really clean side-by-side racing, which is what we like to see. Right, what does all of that mean for the points? Well, this is before any drop scores are added in, remember. So this is outright points at the moment. It will tighten up once those drop scores are calculated. But for now, George Robinson steals a little bit of a march over Nathan Williams. 131 points for Robinson, 8 points more then than Nathan in 2nd place. Louis Neal and William Antrobus, meanwhile, tied for 3rd on 82, with some work to be done to try and close in on those top 2. Then it's Levine Kishaw in 5th, Albert Henriksen Bell 6th, James Pepper 7th, Adrian Rios Garcia in 8th, Liam Bradley 9th, and Luke Armstrong to complete the top 10. But it's very, very early days. Drivers the likes of Dalton Hayward, for example. Archie Flint, we saw some good potential out of Archie Flint in this race, so hopefully we'll see more from him if he returns in a week's time. And looking forward to hopefully getting the likes of Harley Connolly, Kira Harris, Finn Richardson back out onto the grid for our 3rd round of the championship. That 3rd round of the championship will be coming at the same time and same place next week, and we head from the East Midlands to sort of the South Midlands, really. We head to the Silverstone circuit for the first of 2 visits to Silverstone, the second of those being the finale on the Grand Prix circuit in October. But for now, it's the short national circuit that plays host to round 3 of the 2023 Ginetta Junior official eSeries. Be sure to join us here for another 2 fantastic races around a circuit that should guarantee lots of good slipstreaming drama. Well, a big thank you to everyone for joining us. An even bigger thank you to all of the people who have, again, worked really hard to put together a fantastic championship and a fantastic broadcast. We will all be back again next week to bring you more of the same as the Ginetta Junior official eSeries marches towards the mid-season point with the first of 2 visits to the home of British Motorsport. For now, though, from myself, Andy McEwen, the rest of the team here at Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing, we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.